Hey guys, it's Cash, and today I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on Proven Guilty. That is Book 8 in the Dresden Files by Jim Butcher. And I am going to start this video, as always, with a non-spoiler review, and then follow it up in the back half with a spoiler discussion. So let's just hop right on into it. All right, I'll start by saying this is going to be a quicker review today because this is a book 8 in a very long series, so it's kind of hard to talk about it without any spoilers at this point. But rest assured, I am still loving the Dresden Files. I'm going to just kind of read the back cover. I kind of decided I'm going to start doing that in the reviews. So it may contain loose spoilers, especially maybe if you aren't at this point in the series just yet. So that is kind of your minor spoiler warning there. I'm going to start reading the back covers of these books um, in these reviews in the plot section. So this book, there's no love lost between Harry Dresden, the only wizard in the Chicago phone book, and the White Council of Wizards, who find him brash and undisciplined. But war with the vampires has thinned their ranks, so the council has drafted Harry as a warden and assigned him to look into rumors of black magic in the Windy City. As Harry adjusts to his new role, another problem arrives in the form of a tattooed and pierced daughter of an old friend, all grown up and already in trouble. Her boyfriend is the only suspect in what looks like a supernatural assault straight out of a horror film. Malevolent entities that feed on fear are loose in Chicago, but it's all in a day's work for a wizard, his faithful dog, and a talking skull named Bob. So there you have it. That's kind of that's right there. That is the back cover of Proven Guilty. And obviously, if you are watching this, you've probably read some of the Dresden Files and recognized some of those characters that are being talked about there. Um, there are some really great themes going on in this book here. In this book, faith is a big one, kind of discovery of faith or rediscovery of just having faith or being able to trust that it's not just you alone in this world. You can rely on other people and rely on something that you might not fully understand to kind of pull you out in the thick of things. Um, I'll still say overall the plot is better in Deadbeats, but this one is right there with Death Masks. Overall, this is probably a top 3 Dresden book so far after reading the first 8. I don't know if it's better than Death Masks, but it is right now tied for second, and Deadbeat, of course, is still the favorite. Um, if I had to complain about one thing here, the action sequences in some of the fight scenes kind of went on, a little bit long. Kind of felt like getting hit over the head with a stick at a certain point. But that's kind of just kind of nitpicking, to be honest. I do really love the choices Butcher makes. At one point here in the I thought the plot was going to be predictable at certain points. I was like, oh, I see it coming. I kind of know. I can see the train tracks here. I know what's going to happen, and it threw me for a loop. And I will say, he keeps doing that. He thinks he pulls you in, and you kind of know where you think you know where you're going, and then all of a sudden, oh wait, oh damn, I guess I didn't really anticipate that there. Um, yeah. So with that, let's just kind of hop right into characters then, and I'll start by saying there are some fantastic character development moments in this story. Um, Not just with Harry, but with several of the side characters as well. I won't say the names of these side characters here in the non-spoiler section because they kind of vary book to book here in the Dresden Files, but in the spoiler discussion, I'll kind of get more into that. But like I said, here in Proven Guilty, all of the side characters, just like in Deadbeat, all the side characters do get just fantastic development. All the ones that help Harry along the ride in this journey here. Harry himself probably has the biggest development for him here as the main character in this series. I think this book really makes him grow as a character, more so than any of the previous books, in my opinion. Um, Especially, I already kind of touched on the concept of faith there. Kind of Harry kind of being forced to deal with and accept that he really can't do everything on his own at certain points and that it's okay. I thought was fantastic development for him as a main character here. Really, really great job there. There is no new villain, like no new great villain in this book. Kind of, like there's a few books in this series they introduced this fantastic villain that kind of overlaps across the series. There's really none of that going on here in Proven Guilty. There are, however, a bunch of reoccurring problems that have already been introduced in those previous books, but really no new big bad here in Proven Guilty. All right, now moving on over to the world building and setting section. And Butcher hit it out of the park with the world building in this book. I think this is probably the best world building book since Summer Night, because we get out of Chicago a little bit and we kind of touch on some elements and it grows the world pretty fantastic here in Proven Guilty. Um, and one cool thing what Butcher does in the world building, and he's done this with all of the books, but really well in this one, is he gives us so much with so little. Like he kind of grows this universe in such a way where we feel like we have a fantastic meal, but I never feel like I've stuffed my face afterwards, if that makes sense. Like book by book, he has grown this universe, and it's just really well done. And as I keep reading, I learn more and also have more questions about, oh my god, it's just really well thought out. I don't know how else to put it here in the non-spoiler section, but really well done with the world building and setting here in Proven Guilty. There are, like I said in my previous review of Deadbeat, there are recurring places that do pop up once again, like Harry's place and the pub McNally's that he constantly goes to. And you can really kind of tell Butcher has grown so much as a writer by this point in the series, because when he's at these locations, you as a reader kind of feel like, oh wow, this kind of does feel like home here, or wow, this really does feel like a safe place here at the pub. Like I said, Butcher, from Stormfront to now, you can really tell he has grown so much as a writer, and we are all lucky for it. There are also some really cool new places introduced here in Proven Guilty. Like I said, this is the best world building book in the Dresden Files since Summer Night. All right, moving on over to pacing, and once again, this is another very fast-paced book by Mr. Jim Butcher. This is, I do believe, book 8, the longest Dresden Files book so far, at least that I've read. Again, out of the first 8, I think this is the longest one so far, and it still flew by. I read it in just a few days. Um, Despite that fast pace, there are times that, despite the fast pace and the fast chapters, there are times where the story feels slow. And what I mean is, some of the dialogue moments between Harry and some of the other characters, they're just so superb. And when I say slowed down, it's not, there's not action at every turn, and some of the dialogue sequences are really well thought out, and some of the scenes are just really well put together, despite it feeling like a very fast-paced book, if that makes sense. Um, Now I'll talk about my one complaint I kind of said earlier in the plot section about some of the fight scenes kind of feeling like I was getting hit over the head. And kind of what I mean is Butcher loves to do these cliffhanger chapter endings to make you want to keep reading, keep the pages turning onto the next chapter. And sometimes I found like the fight scenes were going on just a little bit too long for my liking, or sometimes the chapters would end, and when you start reading in the first paragraph or the first page, like whatever the previous chapter, however the previous chapter ended, kind of ended up being irrelevant pretty quickly. Um, Kind of a minor complaint for the story. Now, finally, will I keep going? Obviously, this shit's dope. I'm in book 8 now. There's no stopping now. I'm gonna finish, or not finish, but get current with the series. Definitely long before the next book comes out. And so, rating time, rating time. I thought a lot about this. Again, I said it's a top three book for me. So once again, it is being locked in next Dresden Files book as a 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5 here for Proven Guilty. Again, that is kind of tied with Death Masks. Deadbeat, still my favorite so far. All right, now we're going to move on over to the spoiler discussion, and that's your warning, spoiler warning, bada bing, bada boom. I'm not going to try and just give you guys a summary for the story anymore. I know I always say that, but I mean it this time, damn it. I'm just going to talk about some of my favorite moments or concepts or things that I loosely touched on in the non-spoiler section in more detail now. So I'll start with the beginning of this book, and I absolutely loved how it started. Hooked me in right away, as always. Butcher does. But the execution sequence of the teenage warlock was really cool, and how it all kind of tied back in with Molly there at the end and when she was up for execution. Oh my god, that was really well done. And I will say, this is the first time that the intro of the Dresden Files book stuck with me through kind of reading the whole story. Usually the beginning kind of just, it's fast paced or whatever, something happens and you're like, oh cool, yeah, this is the case now or whatever. But this one, and how it all tied back around, it was just fantastic. And more things like that, please. More things like that. Um, so, like I said about the side characters, so I was so surprised to see all of the lady side characters really take the shine in this one, and that is Molly, Murphy, and Charity here in Proven Guilty. Um, Murphy and Harry's relationship is finally talked about and tackled between them. That kind of like, what are we? Are we? Aren't we going to be? Kind of situation. She kind of says like, hey man, if this was a one-time deal, we could probably work something out. But Harry's like, no, I don't flow that way. I respect him for it. He's like, hey, if I commit fully, and we're gonna have to be in a relationship here. Murphy's like, hey, I don't know if I'm down for that, at this time in my life. So they say, let's not do anything. Or really, it's her kind of shutting Harry down. He really gets friend zoned. It's kind of sad, but hey, what can you do? Charity, 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 Charity. She finally starts to really see and appreciate Harry for what he is. She gets fantastic development in this story, and we really get a glimpse into her head here, and we get some understanding of her. And this whole time we think, wow, she doesn't like Harry because, she's always putting her husband Michael in danger. But really, I mean, that is still true. But really, it's because, wow, she used to know magic. She used to be a witch and could really do some cool things there and put it all away so she could raise her family. So Harry coming around, she doesn't want her kids to be influenced by him because she knows that they'll probably have an inert ability to do magic because she can. Right? Okay? Makes sense. Which brings us to Molly, and I'll just, right away, she ends this by she's going to become Harry's apprentice. That's going to be pretty damn interesting and definitely going to have some pretty significant ramifications, I do believe. But Molly is a very interesting character at this point. Um, I will say I didn't know how Butcher was going to take it. She was getting a kind of a little bit too sexualized at one point for my liking because I think she's still like what 17 or something at this point. 17, I don't know. Um, and at the end of the story, where it looks like, oh, are her and Harry about to get it on, and he shuts it down, I was like, oh, bravo, Harry, fantastic. And that also just makes us appreciate Harry so much more as a main character because from Behold, we always hear, oh, Harry's so so much of a chauvinist and he hates women, but there when moments like that where a chick's naked in front of him and he's like, no, this isn't right. I'm not about that. I can't do this. It makes him such a more well-rounded out character in my eyes. Thomas is still around, of course, but he definitely takes more of a backseat in this story compared to the ladies, which kind of makes sense because he played such a significant role in both Deadbeat and Blood Brights, so it kind of made sense that he took a backseat here. However, some very big questions are kind of raised with Thomas. Like, he's moved out at the end of the story, and what's been going on? What's his new job? How has he been making money? Clearly, he's feeding again, so things are going to get probably pretty interesting here with Thomas in the next couple books, I think. Um, we got some cool time with Rollins. He was a cop from, I don't remember what story he was introduced in, to be honest, but we're definitely going to see a lot more of him because of what happens with Murphy by the end of this book, where she gets kind of kicked off of SI and becomes more of a beat cop again, and Rollins is her partner, so I'm sure we are going to see a lot more of him again. And Michael, Charity's husband, is just in it for, just a few chapters. He doesn't play a significant role here at all, which I didn't mind how it all shook out at the end. I love Michael, but this story was great, and it needed to be told, I think, in the way it was told. Um, but the conversation that Harry and Michael have at the end was fantastic, where he's like, hey, man, I've known about the demon coin. I've known about Laciel the whole time. And Harry's like shocked. And again, this plays back into not just having faith in a higher power, but even just having faith in your friends that, hey, man, he's your friend and he loves you and he's gonna he cares about you, and just because this thing has happened, he's not gonna just throw you on the wayside. And Michael's just fantastic, isn't he? Which brings us to Laciel, and Harry is just dabbling, man. He's dabbling, and he's stepping. He started with a toe. Now he's got his ankles in the pool. He's probably shin deep, honestly, at this point in Laciel, and clearly there's going to be major ramifications for the more he keeps accepting her power. But sometimes he's in these situations where you're like, damn, he really couldn't do anything else other than die. And in my memory, this is the first story. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but this is the first time where kind of Harry says out loud to himself that, okay, it is okay to rely on other people. I can't do it all on my own. It's okay to rely on my friends, and it's not just me in this world against evil, which I really appreciated. And it's okay to trust his friends and kind of open up more. Again, tying back to the demon coin conversation, the last Yale conversation with Michael. Uh, the case in this, the case was a little confusing at first because it kind of loosely came from the gatekeeper who's on the White Council who can kind of see the future, but not really because that breaks one of the laws. So he can only see, or if he sees the future, he can only tell people about it in these like kind of vague notions. So sending Harry the message about, hey, there's going to be black magic going down in Chicago, keep an eye out for it. And then that, points it back to Molly. I have a feeling the gatekeeper is going to be a pretty important character here in the future books. I don't quite know why yet. He's interesting. He's really cool, but I don't know what his MO is. So we'll see. That's why we keep reading. Um, I did say the action went long, and what I mean is the fights with these fetches. Sometimes they just went on for a few too many chapters. I thought, or like the Scarecrow at the end. It was cool, but again, like those cliffhanger chapter endings, just kind of sucks me out of it. Just tell it all in one chapter. You know what I mean? But I get he wants that fast pace, and he wants to keep I finished the chapter. Let me keep reading. Um, Whatever. Um, I guess it's possible. I just didn't find the fetches as interesting as some of the other monsters in the universe so far. Uh, I was more interested into what was bringing these movie monsters to life than the actual fights with the movie monsters. You know what I mean? I don't know. Uh, they're super broad creatures, so it was okay to have like, oh, these ones are weaker, these ones are stronger. It was kind of it was. I feel like Butcher just did that to like, okay, here's the creature of this book, let's just have at it. Um, no new main villains, like I said earlier. There's no new big bad introduced in this one, but the reoccurring villains that are brought back are really well done. Queen Mob is losing her damn mind, I guess, and that's going to be very interesting, seeing as when they were leaving Arctis Tor and Harry looks at the fountain and he's like, damn it, that looks like Mob. And then they had to flee. Whatever that was about, I'm sure is going to be very important going forward. Um, and oh yeah, the Merlin. Merlin is still just a huge dick. I don't know what is up his butt and what his problem is, but yeah, he's just still terrible. And clearly, after the execution sequence where Harry gets Molly spared, there's going to be problems with the Merlin going forward. We can just smell it. Overall, I think my favorite things about this book were the two full circle moments that we get here. One being the execution sequence, like I talked about earlier, at the beginning with the teenage warlock and how that kind of hangs over Harry the entire book. And then when it's up to him to defend Molly when she's up for execution, just fantastic. And you can really kind of see one, how Harry is trying to kind of crack the armor of the White Council and try to like, hey, these ways are outdated. We need to make some changes here. And two, why the Merlin is just going to be such a problem later on, like I said. And then the other, thing that kind of looped back that was just really well done is the Harry and Ebenezer's relationship at the early on in the story. He kind of asks him, "Hey man, I'm kind of hungry. You want to go get lunch?" Kind of reaching out, saying, "Hey man, forgive me. I'm sorry. Let's get past this." And Harry says, "No, eat shit." But then again, after everything that happens, and then at the end of the book, it's Harry who says, "Hey, you hungry? Let's go get lunch." Just fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. So, yep, proven guilty. Just pretty damn good. I am loving the Dresden Files. Can't wait to keep it going with White Knight. Probably will start that probably in a few weeks, sometime in April. I'll definitely be done with White Knight. So tell me your thoughts on the Dresden Files in the comment section. If you want to support this video, please do like it and subscribe if you want to keep seeing my thoughts on the Dresden Files along with other great stories. So with that, I will catch you guys next time. See you later.